Afternoon. Here to talk about, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Here to talk about Kansas, AdventHealth 400. Another 1.5-mile track, similar to Texas last week, but different. Closest comparison track-wise is Las Vegas, which we ran at in March. Kyle Larson led the most laps in that race. Josh Berry ended up getting a surprising win. We got Larson on the pole today at Kansas. Chris Buescher qualified second. Typically doesn't qualify very well. Looked really good in practice. Brad Keselowski looked really good in practice. Fords looked good. Reddick looked really good in practice. Byron looked really good in practice. Hamlin loved his car. Some tire issues there in the first group. Keselowski, Gibbs, Briscoe, SVG, they all had tire issues. Zane Smith blew a right rear tire. Everyone else was blowing left rear tires. Zane Smith blew a right rear tire as he spun out. So a little bit of concern, maybe we'll see some tire issues today, but I doubt it. Goodyear and the teams and the booth were pretty convinced that it was just due to teams having low tire pressure to start out the run, and with it only being the first group that had the issues, I'm not concerned at all. But yeah, and that could be why Keselowski looks so good in speed too, because of how they had their tires set up. He didn't run a ton of laps, but Hamlin didn't want to jinx it or do anything wrong. He liked his car that much that they only ran 19 laps. He was very happy with this car. He's really good here at Kansas. Should be a strong play. Like I said, Reddick was strong on the long run. Larson was crazy good on the long run. Byron was right there. The typical guys that we expect to be good today showed speed in practice. About the only ones that I would say I'm concerned about would be Blaney. Didn't look like a typical Blaney practice on Saturday. Qualified 10th. So there's a little bit of upside there. Obviously he still should be strong, but Kansas really isn't his best track. And then Joey Logano was just absolute dog shit in practice. Like his laps were, I went through them to see what may have happened or try to figure it out. He was just so slow. Logano was slow. I hope they were testing something. I mean, obviously he qualified 5th, so there's speed in there, but man, they were bad in practice. But yeah, Reddick's going to be strong. Kyle Busch was really good in practice. He hit the wall in qualifying. He's going to start 35th. Josh Berry did the same thing. He's going to start 38th. Priest is back there starting 30th. Keselowski starting 36th. A lot of good cars back there. Allmendinger qualified 33rd. A lot of good place differential plays today. And then Bowman, he ended up 21st. He's had a ton of speed on these 1.5 miles this year. He's been really good at Kansas. He was part of his issue was qualifying draw and where he went out. He went out pretty early. And he went on Twitter and said that after qualifying. That was why they didn't have the best qualifying run. I just hand built 150 mini max. You hand built 150 different lineups. How long did that take you? I've done it before for surprisingly. I've done it before for like a Daytona. I don't know why. I think I was pretty bored, but Man, that had to take you a long time. Yep. Happy with my optimal projected. So my optimal projected is heavy on. So here's what we need to figure out what's going to happen today. Is Kyle Larson going to dominate the shit out of this race? Is he going to lead over 100 laps? Is he going to embarrass the field? Because the car seems to be good enough to do that. I don't think anyone is very close to Larson heading into this race. Then again, we have seen him time and time again be super fast in practice, start the race a little off, and then get there by the end of it. So then we kind of need to determine the other dominator in there. However, with him on the pole, with how good he was at Vegas, with how good he's been at Kansas, I can see this being an absolute dominant race by Kyle Larson. And it which would open the door to going one dominator, going just Larson on there, and then just going place differential the rest of the way. So I do like my optimal, and I'll pull that up here really quick. So optimal projected today, obviously starting with Kyle Larson. Oops, that's the wrong one. Get this in here. Oh, apparently I didn't have this set up right. Just a second. Let me get this going. All right. Share screen. There we go. Okay. All right. So optimal projected goes Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Josh Berry, and Brad Keselowski. I have no problem with this whatsoever. I think this is a solid cash lineup to roll with. Larson's obviously your dominator. Chastain can get up there. I mean, he's won at Kansas before. He's the most recent winner here. Kyle Busch, pure place differential. Alex Bowman, I think, is a top 5 car today. And then Josh Berry and Keselowski, again, place differential. The only issue with this one is if, I'm not seeing a second dominator. I like to try to work in. I like lineups working in like a Reddick or a Hamlin or maybe a Byron, stuff like that. But as far as a safe lineup here, I have no issue with this. I'm happy with it. I will note though, and I'm going to add this in here. I'm going to lock this one in for this contest. And surprisingly, if you sort my projections like by driver, you take their salary divided by their projected points, and you get dollar per point. Or anyway, it helps you find the value here. Those are the sixth most valuable guys that I have projected today. But I will note, so if you listened and you tuned into Stacking Denny's on Wednesday, Nick and I always do our way too early DraftKings lineups, before practice, before qualifying, before anything. And then we kind of just see how each other does during the actual race. I actually really like the line that I put together from the episode. So I went Larson, like even after practice and qualifying, I still like this and I'm going to enter it. Larson, Hamlin, Bowman, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Ross Chastain. To me, this one I actually like a little bit more. Because you get a second dominator there in with Hamlin. You get the place differential and solid plays of Chastain and Bowman. I really like Austin Dillon today. He's good at Kansas, top 10 at Texas. Kind of a sneaky pick with people, are people going to be going more toward AJ Allmendinger or some other place differential plays in that range? It stays away from a lot of the chalk in that $7,000 range in case any of them don't quite move up all the way, have issues. Obviously Keselowski's had a lot of issues. Priest has ran into issues. Josh Berry is susceptible to issues. And Stenhouse is Stenhouse. I mean, we just saw him finish, sixth last week at Texas. He's been really good here at Kansas. Probably has a fast. I mean, he's a place differential king this season. He's had positive place differential in all but I think one race, maybe two, this season. So I actually like this building like this a little bit better than I do my optimal projected, but I still like my optimal projected. I can get there with that as well. So this one goes Larson, Hamlin, Bowman, Chastain. And there's a lot of ways you can go off of this too. You can get off of a Chastain or a Bowman, come down to Keselowski and guys in those range and upgrade an Austin Dillon or a Stenhouse. There's tons of ways to go here, but I'm gonna lock that one in. And we'll look at some variations from my optimal projected here in a second. How will Gibbs and those guys starting in the back be scored today? I don't think they're starting in the back. Unless I missed something. I haven't been paying attention to Pockrass. Jayski doesn't have any to the rear reported. If they do go to the back, they're being scored from where they qualified. So Gibbs would be scored from where is Ty Gibbs on here? Gibbs would be scored from sixth. And I'm pulling up Pockrass's. Okay. So yeah, there is quite a few. Looks like Jayski must just be slow, or sometimes they do that. But several teams did make adjustments from issues yesterday and will be dropping to the rear today. Keselowski, Ty Dillon, Briscoe, Barry, Zane Smith, Ty Gibbs, and SVG. Kyle Busch is not going to be going to the rear or have to go to the rear. Their damage was just cosmetic. But yeah, Gibbs will be scored from sixth, which I wasn't really on Gibbs anyway, but that just makes me want to get off of him more. I'm not a big Gibbs guy. 4 hours to do 150. That's actually not bad. That's pretty efficient. I'm curious where your how many duplicates you ended up with and what your exposures looked like by doing it by hand. But yeah, everyone else going to the back, like Keselowski, Ty Dillon qualified 29th, but I mean, he's basically going to be back there anyway. All those other guys are going to be in the back, or we're going to start in the back anyway. Briscoe qualified 19th, so he's going to have to go back there quite a bit. So I guess Briscoe and Gibbs are probably the biggest two. I will say this. I think today's going to be a day of wild cards. We have Corey Heim in the field driving for 2311. Is he in that 2311 car? And then we have Jesse Love in that 33 car. Yeah, so Corey Himes in the 67 for 2311. We know 2311 has been good here at Kansas. They struggled last season. I will note that. They were not good in the race here last season, but I'm going to chalk that up to maybe a fluke because they look fine this weekend. I like Bubba Wallace today. I really like Tyler Reddick today. So Corey Haim's going to be an interesting one, and what we can potentially do with him sitting there at 6,700. He ran here last year. I think he finished like 22nd, if I remember right. But it's these guys that we don't have a lot of insight on. They're not. Yeah, he finished 22nd here last year. We don't have a lot of insight on. A lot of people don't. You don't really know how to use them, right? Corey Haim could be a pivot down off of the Keselowskis and the Priestes and the Barry Chalks. Could definitely see that working out. And then Jesse Love, starting 32nd. Does he actually have a decent car to work with today? Can he get up there? I see no reason why he can't be a low dollar cap saver. I mean, I prefer going with Ty Dillon or rolling the dice with Riley Herbst, but Jesse Love's basically in the same boat to me. It's kind of pick your poison there and hope, if you want to stuff some of the higher priced guys today, you're able to do that because you can go with a guy like Ty Dillon or Riley Herbst, who, Herbst finished 19th, I think, at Las Vegas. He comes in the teens. You're looking at a solid value there at 5,400 if your top priced guys get it done and get the points as well. That's kind of the balance you need to go today is, do you need to drop down or can you drop down to these lower priced guys? And a lot of times you don't have to because there's so much place differential in the Keselowskis, the Bowman, the Chastains in that price range where you don't really have to. But I mean, we all know typically the chalk doesn't hit at 100%. All right. So you're going Larson, Busch, Chastain, Bowman, Barry. I mean, for tournament, I would definitely think that's too chalky. I mean, if you're gonna take one down with that, you're gonna chop it, probably 100 some different ways. But that's just how the everything's going today. There's a ton of place differential play out there, and it kind of takes away. It doesn't take away the importance of fastest laps and laps led, but it kind of it takes away the significance of them in a way, because you look at, so let's say Kyle Busch finishes 8th, right? That's 27 place differential points for him. If we're looking just at like a Tyler Reddick, to get to 27, extra points, he'd have to put up 60 fastest laps. He's probably not going to do that. So let's say he puts up 30 fastest laps, right? That's going to give him 13.5 points. He still needs to get another 13.5 points. And to do that, he's going to need 54 laps led. Certainly possible. Certainly possible. But nowhere near as easy as it is for Kyle Busch to go up and finish 8th. And that's kind of the issue. Not to mention the price difference. But just to get an idea of, what this is going to take for these place differential plays to not end up in the optimal lineup is it's going to take a lot, and then you have to have the right guy in the second spot or as your second dominator, you know. But as far as, you know, guys that are really good here at Kansas, you know, like the obvious ones are Larson, Hamlin. But then you look at guys like this is another problem with the chalk today. Alex Bowman's really good here. He's never finished worse than 10th in the next gen era at Kansas. Ross Chastain, really good here. 7th or better in, I think, 4 of the 6 races here in the next gen era at Kansas. So not only is the chalk obvious, but they're really good at Kansas. And it makes it tough to kind of differentiate. You really have to force yourself. But to be honest with you, as far as this race goes, I am more than willing to go 100% Larson today and see what happens. If he blows an engine on lap 3, then I'll you know what? We'll go on to the next race. I'm going to find it really hard to build lineups with Larson. If I want another dominator, I'm going to pair them with Larson. Larson, Reddick, Busch, Barry, Priest, Allmendinger. Yeah, you could definitely do that. I'd consider, just to switch this up a little bit, I'd consider going off of Allmendinger down to Stenhouse and then going Busch to Chastain. Or if you did want to stick with Busch, I'd consider going to Austin Dillon as well. But yeah, you can't. I mean, you know, Allmendinger's down there starting 33rd. He's been solid on intermediates this year. My projections love Allmendinger today, so I'm not going to talk you out of that. But if I'm hand building this, that might be a switch that I'd make. I like Chastain better than I like Busch today, despite the place differential. But I do think, you know, if you think Busch has solid speed, I think that's a good opportunity to roll the dice with Austin Dillon. You know, you go the 2 RCR cars. Yeah, I have no Chastain messed up in qualifying, but at least this week you can see the second. Yeah. I have no issue with Chastain this week. Which Josh Berry will show up. See, that's another thing, you know. Like I said, Penske Fords didn't overly impress me this week in practice. And if that continues in the race, I'm fine with being underweight on Josh Berry. You know, one reason that he did so well at Vegas was because he started up front and he stayed up front. Larson, Blaney, Busher, Bowman. I wouldn't go Ty Gibbs. I know that for sure. Larson, Blaney, Busher, and Busher's a wild card today too. You know, if he has his cut, you have to remember back Texas last week. Chris Busher had a race-winning car last week at Texas. If they have that same speed, which in practice certainly looked like it this week, if they have that same speed this week, Chris Busher can 100% win this race. And he could be a guy that takes the lead early from Kyle Larson. That could be the one that kind of, not messes up, but throws in a wrench to everything happening. I don't mind for tournaments at all doing a Larson Busher build. I don't mind it at all. But Larson, Blaney, Busher, Bowman, Hocevar, oh, I'd assume you mean Ty Dillon here, not Ty Gibbs. Don't mind it. But let's take a look at this. You can go Hocevar and Ty Dillon, which, Hocevar has been a bit of a wild card this year. Has potential top 10 upside here. Nowhere near guaranteed. Ty Dillon's probably going to cap out about 22nd. So you're looking at a good day out of Ty Dillon. You're going to get a 22nd place finish out of him, which finish points is 20 on DraftKings, and then you're going to get 7 place differential points, right? Hocevar, let's say he finishes top 10. He's going to get 34 finish points and 12 place differential points, okay? So if that, which both of those are good races out of those two, right? 73 points on DraftKings when you go Hocevar and Ty Dillon. Now, let's say you go Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, because it's the same price to do both of those. Link, be quiet, please. And you could go Allmendinger here as well, but I'd rather go Stenhouse. Actually, it's $200 less to go Stenhouse Dillon. Anyway, so let's say Stenhouse does 14th place finish, which is a decent day for him, but he also has top 10 upside. 14th place finish, gets him 29 points finish-wise, 13 points place differential. Let's say Austin Dillon does his normal at Kansas, 12th place finish, 31 finish points, 8 place differential. Right there, that gives you 81. And I think Stenhouse gives you better upside than Hocevar. So I would, with this build, I don't mind it at all. Not at all. Larson, Blaney, Busher, Bowman. I would probably go Stenhouse, Austin Dillon over Hocevar, Ty Dillon. Just because I think the potential, there's significant more potential there. As much as I do like Ty Dillon as a very low dollar option this week, I would rather go the Stenhouse Austin Dillon stack there at the bottom. And yes, I know that was a pretty long-winded answer to get to that, but it was a good opportunity to really analyze a debate like that between, going Stenhouse, Austin Dillon over someone else. But I'd like to build some Larson Busher lines here. And I'm curious to see what my projections really like when you force those two in there. What am I missing here? Okay. think Priest will be far less owned than Keselowski. I'm honestly not 100% sure what to expect out of Keselowski ownership. I think I have Keselowski projected at 29%, and I have Priest projected at 22. So is that far owned, or far less owned? I still think they're going to have significant or a good chunk of ownership there. Yeah. Huge Chastain fan. Yep. Yeah. Link didn't like that build at all. See if he does something else when I have one or come up with one that I really like. But let's stick with this Larson Buescher build. It's going to be hard for me to get off of Bowman today. But let's throw Hamlin in there. Gives you an average of 65. So you could do something like this. You go Larson, Buescher, Hamlin, Bowman, Stenhouse, Kez. If you want to do something like that. Obviously, it's pretty risky to go Larson, Buescher, Reddick, going 3 guys in the top 4. But what about something like this? You go Byron. Ooh. So you get Larson, Byron, Bowman. You get Buescher. Stenhouse, Heim. Could also come off of Byron down to Hamlin if you wanted, and that could also get you Austin Dillon. Ooh. I like all variations of that that I just listed. So Larson, Byron, Bowman. Stenhouse, Corey Heim, and Buescher. And then you could go Larson, Hamlin, Bowman, Austin Dillon, Corey Heim, Buescher. Tough to play him at his price, but in reality, to me, it's not a lot of difference. It's getting you off the chalk of Keselowski and Priest, Berry. I understand the concern, but there's also that aspect of it. And like I said here, you could go Larson, Hammond, Buescher, Bowman, Keselowski, Stenhouse. Fading Larson and GPP. See, this is the one week where I don't think I want to fade Larson. And I'm a contrarian DraftKings player. I thrive in maybe in a single entry. Maybe like a single entry qualifier, I'll fade Larson. But I'm having a hard time doing that today. I just think he has that good of a car. Man, again, could you go Reddick there? Go Larson, Reddick, Busher, Bowman. Stenhouse, Berry. Could go. I mean, this is Stenhouse, Berry. I think might be a little chalky. If you come down to what if we go Gregson, Dillon. The problem is front row has just not been that good. Zane Smith's been decent though. Go Gregson, Austin, Dillon. What about Eric Jones? You know, third here last spring, fifth on or at Texas last week. Larson, Reddick, Busher. Again, I'm not a big fan of going Larson, Reddick, Busher, but at the same time, I can see the path of it working. Let's see. My projections when we force Busher and Larson. So the top one it spits out is Larson, Kyle Busch, Busher, Bowman, Barry, Keselowski. Damn, that leaves a ton of cap. That's my optimal with Larson, Busher. Second highest is Chastain instead of Kyle Busch. But yeah, big on place differential if you're using my projections this week. All right. Blaney, Hamlin, Byron, Keselowski, Ty Dillon, Stenhouse. Leaves you an extra 5 to work with. I don't mind this at all. I definitely consider I'd probably go. My problem with this one is there's no with you not going Larson. I think you need to get who you expect to be the early dominator, and I don't know if it's going to be Byron. So if you're not on Larson, this lineup could work if Larson leads the first part of the race and then blows a tire, hits the wall, and he's out. You know, where those dominator points that Larson got leading early don't really matter because he wrecked out. But my concern here is who's going to be your early dominator if it's not going to be Larson. So that's why I'd consider coming down to Reddick, maybe off of Blaney, maybe off of Byron, probably off of Blaney. I think Blaney is, I don't see him getting the dominating. Like, he really does not put up dominator points at Kansas. Look at you look at the 6 next gen races for Ryan Blaney at Kansas. He put 23 fastest laps up last fall. That is a complete anomaly. Before that, 0, 3, 0, and 8. I understand that this car has been very good this year on long runs. But he wasn't showing it in practice, which is concerning to me. So I would probably go Reddick here, because you look at Reddick, fastest laps over the 6 Kansas races. In the next gen era, 10, 18, 21, 10, 17, and 17. So I'd probably go Reddick here. It gives you an extra $1,200 to play with, which you can do a lot with. Honestly, if I had this extra $1,200, I'd come off of Ty Dillon and I'd go to Austin Dillon. I'm landing on this Austin Dillon Stenhouse build quite a bit, ain't I? But you could obviously upgrade Keselowski then too if you wanted to. If you wanted to stay with Ty Dillon, if you wanted to get off Kes and go up to Bowman, you could do that. But I'd probably go this. I'd probably go Reddick, Byron, Hamlin, Kes, Austin Dillon, Stenhouse. And maybe like a drop off of Kes and go down to Gregson. But that's also like kind of the issue with, because I'll pull up what my projections say without Larson, and I can guarantee it's going to be all place differential. This is where you kind of, if you are going to fade Larson, you need to kind of keep in mind that you need the early dominator, or you need the dominator, and you kind of have to figure out who that's going to be, whether it's going to be a Reddick, whether it's going to be a Buescher. But assuming if you're fading Larson, you're doing so because you think he's going to wreck, or you're doing so because you think he's not going to be as good as everybody thinks he is, which means someone's going to have to replace him in being that in that category. Any love for Barry or love? Yeah, I think Barry, Barry's projecting really well in my projections. I'm sure he is with almost everybody. Jesse Love's a wild card, can definitely get there. I don't know if I will hand building these, but can definitely get there. Favorite play in the 6 to 7K range, it's got to be Stenhouse for me. I like Stenhouse. I like Austin Dillon. I like being overweight on Eric Jones. I think that Legacy Motor Club has a little bit of speed right now. And Jones should be really low owned this week. I'll say that. I almost wrote up Eric Jones in my article. Which, by the way, as always, rotoballer.com. Use code Jordan25. You're going to get 30% off there on my exclusive content. Did I get Busher 25-1 earlier this week? I did not. I don't know what I was thinking. A lot of times I wait on Busher lines just because he typically does not qualify well. So if I like him early in the week, I'm probably going to still like him in the weekend, and not much is going to change. But, now he's sitting at, 10-1, 9-1 at some books, and I'm not betting that. I can get him 11-1 in some places, but he's 10-1 here at DraftKings that I got pulled up. But no, I didn't. Probably, I wish I would have got an early top 10 line on him, but I didn't. I wasn't 100% sure whether Texas speed was a fluke, but I will note that, man, that car was good last week at Texas, and if they have that same speed, he's going to have something to say today for sure. Bell Reddick start. That's solid because not a lot of people are talking about Bell today. And, he started on the pole here last spring, led 122 laps, finished 7th. The problem with Bell, he's won the pole the last 3 races here. He led 15 laps here in the fall of 2023. He led 5 laps in this spring race last year, and then obviously had that 122 lap. He hasn't been great, and I'm not seeing the speed out of Bell this season on the intermediates. He probably has top 5 upside. He's probably a solid top 10 car, but I don't think Bell's the tournament play today. If we're being honest. But if I'm going to build Reddick, I'd go Reddick Bell. See where we're at here. Go Bowman. Give me Kez. I'd probably go chalk the rest of the way. Just because you got your going Reddick Bell is going to differentiate you quite a bit. So yeah, probably either Barry or Priest along with these guys, the Bowman, Kez, Kyle Busch, Priest to go along with Reddick Bell. But like I said, I'm not really there on Bell. I could see myself going a Hamlin Reddick build though. About something like this. You go Reddick, Hamlin, Bubba, Bowman, Priest, Jones. If you wanted to go Barry instead of Priest, you could go Austin Dillon instead of Eric Jones. And you could just go Kaz too. Like I feel like Kaz and Priest is such a toss-up. So you go Reddick, Hamlin, Bowman, Bubba, Keselowski. I actually like that. I'm gonna put that one in. Actually, I'm gonna go Priest with this because I don't have any Priest lineups yet. So yeah, give me Priest. Oh crap. Okay, Reddick, Hamlin, Bowman, Jones, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Priest. Larson, Byron, Busher, Bowman. Yeah, I mean, I think that's strong. Could also go Jones too if you didn't want to go Stenhouse. Curious what a line would look like if we did just stack the top. If you went Larson, Hamlin, Reddick, Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones. It just cuts out all of those place differential. I don't think is ideal. Reddick, Byron, Busher. Okay, I like your thought here. If you're going against Larson, you got the early guys for Dominator. Barry, yeah. Bowman, Barry, Stenhouse. That's the thing with these place differential plays too, is you can leave cap on the table and be fine. Let's see what if I take Larson out of the player pool here. And obviously this isn't a great way to do this because you're essentially just eliminating a driver. Top projected lineup. Like I said, this is going to be a lot of just stuff in place differential. So top projected without Larson is Byron, Byron Chastain, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Barry Kez. Scrolling down, the one with Busher was Denny Hamlin, Busher, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, and Brad Keselowski. Which I think is pretty solid. Again, though, I don't mind coming off of Kez at some point and going to Gregson. But, all right, so we got Hamlin, Busher, Chastain, Bowman, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski. I'm kind of surprised that DraftKings hasn't reopened their most fastest lap props. I know ESPN Bet had Larson with the fastest lap at plus 275. Ooh, they got ESPN has Busher up to 12-1. See what Bet365 has for fastest lap. When I checked before, they didn't have it posted. All right. Nothing too crazy here. Larson at plus 225. Reddick at 10-1 for fastest lap isn't. I don't particularly hate it. I actually don't mind that at all. I think Larson's going to get it, but Reddick at 10-1 for fastest lap. See if Caesars has their lines posted. By the way, if you think Larson's going to dominate everything today, Caesars has most laps led by any driver set at 99.5. So if you like Larson as much as I do, that wouldn't be awful to bet the over there. I mean, obviously it's going to take a lot to lead 100 laps, but 267 laps scheduled today. Plenty of all right. Fastest lap. They do have it on Caesars here. Reddick's at 7. I think Reddick fastest lap is a bet at 10-1 on ESPN. Like I said, I think Larson gets it, but I'm gonna put some on here on Reddick fastest lap. It was nice. It was nice hitting Larson pole plus 550 yesterday. See if we can hit. Let's see if we can hit Reddick fastest lap here, 10-1. All right, let me. All right, locking that in. Reddick fastest lap, 10-1 on ESPN. I am curious as though if DraftKings posts their most fastest lap line, where Larson's at, because I'd be willing to bet that quite a bit. All right. For your 150 Hanfield, Gregson was a sleeper. Never got to him. Could be a different play. Don't love it though. Yeah, Gregson's just one of those. To me, it's one of those weeks. If you do want to differentiate and kind of, he's a pivot, 100%. But like you, I can't get to him unless I really force it in my hand builds. But so I'm running the optimizer now in the Rotoballer optimizer. I'm running it in tournament mode just to see with no restrictions or anything. So this is going to shove Keselowski in a good chunk of lineups. I'm curious to see how often. So yeah, it's got Keselowski at 96%, Bowman at 93%, Larson at 82%. Surprised it wasn't 100 for Larson. Kyle Busch, Josh Berry, Ross Chastain, Hamlin, Allmendinger. All right. Does it even get to? Nope, not a single lineup with Gragson based on my projections, which obviously isn't. My projections aren't super high on Gragson, but GPPs, who do you like most between Barry, Priest, and Brad? Just to be like, to me, they're all super similar. I have Keselowski projected highest. Yeah, Keselowski, I think, is the contrarian brain in me wants to go Priest over Kez, but I think Kez is the better play. And sometimes you have to eat the chalk. Four-man NASCAR pool, pick drivers each week. We can build around Reddick, Buescher, Chastain, and Austin Dillon. Is this for? I'm assuming this is for DraftKings, so you have to build around Reddick, Buescher, Chastain, and Austin Dillon. Am I reading that right, or? Oh, you pick a driver between those four. I was gonna say I'd just go Larson Stenhouse with those four. Or did you mean you said can we build around those four, right? So yeah, I'd go Larson Stenhouse. But between those four, like if you're just picking one, I'd go Reddick. And I think I put this lineup in already here. The Larson. I hope I did. Maybe not. No, I didn't. So Larson, Reddick, Chastain, Busher, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Honestly, I think, like I said, I think taking 3 of the top 4 starters here is risky, but I think that might be what it takes to take down a tournament today because there is so much chalk out there. Go Hamlin, Reddick, Chastain, Bowman. This one could work. If you go Hamlin, Reddick, Busher, Chastain, Bowman, Ty Dillon. This one could work. Busher dominates top 5. Reddick, other dominator, top 5. And then Hamlin does his thing and gets a top 5. You need Bowman and Chastain to get top 10s, but that's how I could see a lineup like this working. Yeah, I think it's a problem. I'm not getting to Kyle Busch. I like Chastain more than Kyle Busch today, guys. Damn, I have a lot of Busher today. No more Busher lineups for me. Cash line today, as always, I'll preface this by saying that I am not a very good cash game player, but it'd probably look it'd probably go something like that. Larson, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Keselowski, Berry. Yeah. Outside of that, I could see myself getting to probably not even that. Yeah, it'd probably be this. It'd probably be Larson, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Berry. Again, I'm not good at cash games. Dinger finished 8th at Vegas. Do you like Stenhouse more than Dinger today? I do. Dinger was bad yesterday. And I'm a little concerned. I think they have very similar overall speed this year. So I'd rather roll with someone like a Stenhouse. Who didn't look just lost in practice. Allmendinger looked lost in practice. Now, his teammate, Ty Dillon, didn't look nearly as bad, but I don't know. Allmendinger was not good. So yeah, I like Stenhouse better than Dinger today, despite the higher place differential upside with Dinger. A super galaxy brain lineup. It's tough to get different today. There's just so much chalk, so much place differential chalk. And what's crazy is you don't even really need to get too wild and dig deep. I'm perfectly fine with this. And do something like that. Do a Larson, Hamlin, Reddick, Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones. That kind of line would work out if it was a 3-way dominator type of situation, but all right. So my optimal projected is Larson, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Berry, Keselowski, which I think is just very chalky. Interesting. The second highest projected lineup goes Larson, Bubba, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Berry, Keselowski. But what if we go Bubba off of Chastain and then go Hocevar off of Berry? Again, I'm not in love with it, but I can see it working. If we go Larson, Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Bowman, Eric Jones, Austin Dillon. Or Stenhouse. I feel like I don't have enough Byron today. Larson, Byron, Bowman. Kyle Busch. Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. My problem with Byron is what if he has another race like Vegas where he had a really good car at Vegas. I liked him at Vegas. 18 fastest laps for him at Vegas. 10 laps led. That's not awful. But what if he just runs around fifth all day? I'd rather go Hamlin or Reddick. Definitely Reddick. I really like Reddick today. Feels like a tournament chop day. Absolutely. I mean, we're gonna need a lot of weird stuff happening for this not to just get chopped everywhere. Honestly, I think it's a good day. Like I already do not like the prize structure, for the big GPP. But to me, it's a good day to play high dollar and do just small little pivots. What if we went? I'm still interested in Corey Heim this week. So you go Larson Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Corey Heim, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Like that's the little stuff that I could see, you know, making a difference a bit. So I go Larson Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Stenhouse, and Heim. Go Larson, Reddick, Bubba Wallace. Ah, damn it. You can go Allmendinger there, I guess. I was hoping to get up to Chastain. You know, Zane Smith sounded really overly confident with his car. Let's do this. Let's go Larson Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, Zane Smith. Let's go Larson Hamlin. Kyle Busch. Could go Bowman, but I have a ton of Bowman already. Stenhouse, Zane Smith, Ross Chastain. All right, I got one lineup left. If you have a starter that you'd like me to roll with, oops, I clicked the wrong one. Or a build to analyze, go ahead and throw it in the chat quick. I'll throw in the link to my DraftKings contest, so make sure you jump in there. Do one more lineup here before I hop off. Bowman hits the wall, lap 48. Reminds me of, what was it, Vegas last year? I said Zane Smith's going to hit the wall on lap 3 or 4, and he did. Yeah, so there's the contest from the link to my DraftKings contest. Larson Byron team, yeah. So I like the Hendrick stack of going Larson, Byron, Bowman. So the first one I did was Larson, Byron, Bowman, Busher, Stenhouse, Heim, which is obviously very, very risky there. Second one I did was Larson, Byron, Hamlin. Austin Dillon, Busher, Heim. And then one that's a little bit more, oops. Larson, Byron, Bowman. Kyle Busch, Stenhouse, Eric Jones. You could also go Austin Dillon there if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to jump off of Keselowski, you could do any of these guys right here. Hocevar, Barry, Priest, Keselowski, pick 2 of them. Could do something like that. Go Larson. I like starting off with Larson, Byron, Bowman for sure. And then it just depends what you want to do with the rest of it. This isn't an awful week to leave cap on the table either. You could do something like that. Larson, Byron, Bowman, Kyle Busch, Stenhouse, Austin Dillon. Full Chevy lineup there. But if there are no more questions, I'm going to hop off of here. Get all my lineups fully locked in. Yeah, he had the least amount of fall off because he was so slow to begin with. And that's just going to naturally happen. That's why when you compare fall off times, you really have to consider what the short run speed was as well. Because having not much fall off over a long run isn't necessarily a good thing. If you don't have the short run speed to back it up as well. Thoughts on championship race going back to Homestead? I love it. I like the idea that they're going to be, switching things up, moving it around. I think that's a good idea. I think Homestead's a great track to determine a champion. So definitely, I think that was a good move. I think that was a really good move. For sure. Driver that we're not talking about today that could be a surprise winner. Ooh. I don't think so. I don't think so. We know who qualified well, or who runs well on the intermediates this year. I think it'll be a lot of the same guys. I don't think we're going to get a Josh Berry in victory lane today, like we did at Vegas. So Suarez thoughts. I'm not on Suarez at all. He hated his car. I think part of the reason why he qualified so well, and I could be wrong, but I think he went out late in the session, which helped. Obviously the later guys. Nope, he went 27th, so that was pretty far back for him. I'm not on Suarez. Not on Suarez at all. I know he finished second at Vegas, but that was he weirdly has something going on at Vegas. I don't know what it is. His record here at Kansas isn't quite as good as it is at Vegas. Next gen, he has one top 10 in the next gen era. So, nope, I'm not on Suarez today at all. Yep. Good luck to everybody today. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we get another good Kansas race. I think there could be some live betting opportunities. So if you're in the Rotoballer Discord, make sure you're paying attention. Could see some opportunities there. Other than that, I'm hopping off here. I'm going to build my 150 lineups. I'm going to enjoy this race. We got just about an hour and 20 minutes until green flag or until DraftKings locks their lineups. So good luck to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, good luck. Enjoy the race. See you guys.